Hip and the Lip, welcome! A Friday night edition. I am the Hip, and this is the Lip.
Hello, Hip and Lip Nation. Hello. Yes, hello.
Yes, we're so cool on Friday night. This is what we do. Yes. This is our first time doing it on a Friday. It means we're so committed. Yes. Did I just hear something in the background? Yes, I did. I heard a natural body sound in the background. Hopefully, it got caught up by the audio there. So, welcome. We are broadcasting live on YouTube. I tweeted it to our 3 followers. It is a feature you can actually watch us. More importantly, is the audio. But if you have, who else? Everyone's sitting around on a Friday night doing nothing. So, we are.
Well, if you're a true hipster, then you are sitting around on a Friday night, and we are true hipsters, so therefore we are sitting around doing a podcast on a Friday night, eh?
Yes. Oh. So, tonight, we have 2 games to cover. The Islanders against the Wild, and then the Islanders against the Washington Capitals. So, followed by that, we'll talk about 2 games coming up this weekend, as in tomorrow and Sunday. Super Bowl Sunday, speaking of which. We'll talk a little bit about that, see if the Lip has revised his prediction from last episode. He's had more time to think about it. Or we'll just give him more time to thinking about his prediction. And the Hipster Moment of the Week will come as a final moment to the podcast. We're going to reward. Yeah, we're going to change it up. We're going to reward those who listen through with a very special Hipster Moment of the Week, which I'll say is one that the Lip is one that you would think the Lip would say. I'm not going to say what it is yet, but you would think he would say it. So the fact that I'm the one saying it makes it that much better. Thanks for your background noise once again. We'll see how good our mics are.
That's amazing. You can hear it.
I can hear it, and we'll see how good our mics are. And I'll say that is not too far off from the Hipster Moment of the Week. Okay, so let's get into it. So on Tuesday night, earlier this week, the Islanders had a nice 5-3 win over the Minnesota Wild, a home game coming out of the All-Star break. Couple of interesting things that I want to bring up that I'd like to get your reaction to, to get this going. So, first of all, the Mr. I want to get his name right. Jean-Francois Berube was the starting goalie for the New York Islanders in this game. I had never heard of him. I'm like, do teams use 3 goalies when all 3 are healthy? No,
they don't.
It just didn't seem to make much sense. Not that I know, but like, what is going on here? And so, they won. So I don't know how much it changes things or whatever, but let's start with that. So what's the story? Why are they using a 3rd goalie to start the second half of the season?
It was a head scratcher. Everybody was bewildered by the move. But no, teams don't use 3 goalies. If you have 3 goalies, it means you have no goalies. That's what it means. But so they claimed this guy off of waivers from the Kings earlier before the season started. Obviously, they had scouted him.
In the offseason.
Yeah. So right before it was actually. No, it was right before the season. It was actually right before the season. He was placed on waivers by the Kings. The Islanders claimed him. And so apparently they liked him. They thought he had ability. I guess they had scouted him, one would think.
Was he backing up? Was he backing up? Is Quick still the goalie there?
In LA, yes, he is.
So was he backing him up, or was he like in the AHL?
He may have had a handful of starts at the NHL level, but he had been a career minor leaguer. Other than that, I don't think he's not. He's not old. He's not.
No, he was born in '91. I saw. So
okay, yeah. So
that puts him at 25.
Yep. So he's I guess been in the minor leagues. I was not familiar with this guy at all when they claimed him. So they brought him in. He played 1 game earlier in the season. It was the 2nd game of the season against the Blackhawks. He actually played pretty decently in that game, a game that nobody else showed up. They lost that game. but played decently enough. And
did he start that game, or did he come off the bench?
He did. No, he started the game.
Why would you start? Okay, that's another. I mean, that's another head scratcher onto itself.
Halak was injured.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, Halak was still. Yeah, he was injured at the beginning of the season.
You're putting in a guy that you just claimed off waivers who hasn't started a game for you yet. Well, that's what happened. Yeah. Okay, so back to the decision against the Wild to start this guy.
Yeah. So the bottom line is that they claim when they claimed this guy, they obviously had expectations that he could potentially play for them this year. But the bottom line is, if they can't send him to the minors right now, his contract will not allow them to send him to the minors without having to pass their waivers. If they put him on waivers, they're fearful, obviously, that somebody will claim him, so they don't want to do that. So therefore, he's going to be on the active roster at least for now, and we'll see how this thing plays out, at least up until the trade deadline. But yeah, a head-scratching move starting him after the All-Star break when you have two rested goalies in Halak and Greiss. But really no explanation other than he had been playing well at Bridgeport in the minors for the last couple of starts that he had. That was the only explanation for why he started.
Wait a minute. This doesn't add up to me. So you said that for him to go back to the minors, he'd have to clear waivers.
Correct.
To me, that would imply that he's been on the active roster for some time. So when was he playing at Bridgeport?
The exception, and then so there's an exception to that. So if you classify a player as being on a conditioning stint, if he was previously injured, he doesn't have to pass through waivers, because then you can put the player whatever player in the minor leagues for, I think it's probably a maximum of 2 weeks or something like that. He doesn't have to pass through waivers. You put him there for a couple of weeks, and then you have to call him back up. But so that's where he was. So he was on this conditioning stint, made his 4 starts, 5 starts, whatever it was in Bridgeport, and that was the justification for starting him. The first game after the All-Star break was that he played well in those starts.
Is that conditioning stint rule limited to goalies?
No, I think any player.
Does it have to relate to recovering from an injury? I guess not. He wasn't injured, right?
No, he was injured. I think he was injured prior to that. Yeah.
So okay. So the conditioning stint, is it kind of like when a baseball player goes on a rehab assignment?
Exactly.
In the minors because he's on the DL.
Yep. Good analogy.
Okay. Well, but is the guy? We could probably, I guess the way this is going, we could spend a half an hour on it. But in any event, maybe we should just leave it at that for now as far as this condition. We could talk about it some other time.
Yeah. I mean, it's just that in the CBA, that's how it's written. So, But now if they want to send him to the minors, they can't unless they put him on waivers first. And they don't want to lose him. They're fearful of another team claiming him. So the speculation now is that they're going to look to trade him. My assumption would be him as opposed to one of their other goalies before the trade deadline, see if they can get something in return for him. If other teams around the league think he's worth anything, that they would be willing to give up something. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But it was a very odd, curious decision starting him after the All-Star break, regardless of how he'd been playing. To start your number 3 goalie. And something that made me immediately, because when you heard that he was starting, and then there was reference by some of the announcers, before the game of a 3-goalie rotation, and immediately any Islander fan that remembers the 3-goalie rotation that they instituted maybe 5 years ago when they had Al Montoya, Evgeny Nabokov, and the Bionic Man Rick DiPietro rotate as a 3-goalie rotation, which everybody knew was just stupid and ridiculous, and it did not work well for them that year. So it'll be interesting to see how did you feel he going forward.
How do you feel he played?
I mean, he made 40 saves, something like that. I thought he played pretty well. The first goal was soft. It was a weak backhand from an off angle. It's a goal. It's a puck he has to have, no question.
Yeah.
And then the second goal was a terrible rebound, an awful rebound. It was not a difficult shot to handle. That's a shot that you have to handle the rebound, control it, play it off to the side, cover it, whatever. But terrible rebound control there. The third goal, was on the power play, whatever. But I thought overall he played pretty well.
Is that a stat that they keep track of, percentage of shots on goalies that are rebounds?
Yeah, I'm sure there's probably some kind of tracker for that. My guess would be yes.
Because by saying he has to control that, we're saying that one skill of a goalie is not giving up these rebounds that just go right in front of them, so that if a player happens to be standing there, they can just get it past them because the goalie can't react.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and a shot like that, I mean, it was not a difficult shot. I mean, look, some shots are going to be difficult to control the rebound. If a player is able to get off like a hard slap or wrist shot from a good angle and it goes off your pad. It's you try and direct the rebound so it doesn't go to a prime scoring area. You try and direct it off to the side or whatever. But that was not a shot that that required that type of rebound to go right in front of the net. So
is it basically like softer shots are, it would make sense, I guess. Softer shots are easier to control. Yeah.
Yeah, typically. Yeah, I mean, it depends on the shot,
right,
the angle where the player's shooting from. But that particular shot was one he should have controlled the rebound. No question.
All right, so enough on Berube for now. We'll see. When is the trade deadline?
It's at the end of this month. I forget the exact date, but I know it's at the end of this month.
So it may, if the theory is indeed true that Garth and company are considering moving Mr. Berube, then it may not be a surprise to see him back in net at some point over the next.
I'm sure you will. I would be surprised if you don't. I'm sure that you will see him back in net at some point. They have multiple back-to-back. I think at least a few back-to-back games
coming up,
and you'll never see, especially now that they have three goalies. You will definitely not see them starting the same goalie in back-to-back games. At least it'll be very unlikely. But yeah, my guess is you will see him at least a few more times before the end of the month.
Okay. All right. So here's a question I have.
All right.
In the first period of the game against the Wild, the Islanders were penalized for having too many men on the ice, and good old Jack decided to put John Tavares in the penalty box. And Butch Goring made a point that said, look, it's a little peculiar because if the Wild get penalized during that penalty kill for the Islanders, now it's a 4-on-4, and you can't use your best goal scorer in that 4-on-4 situation. I mean, can't there be some other player that you'd stick in there for 2 minutes that you could live without being on the penalty kill? Then your captain. That was the point. So I mean, is the peculiarity warranted?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've heard Butch make that point before about them putting Tavares in the penalty box for a too many men penalty. I mean, look, Tavares doesn't kill penalties, obviously, but
right.
It's a good point. I mean, if they, if the other team then takes a penality, then Tavares is not available to go on to play in the 4-on-4. So
why don't they don't have somebody else.
It's a good point. I don't know. I don't have the answer to that question, but you got to remember who's making the decision. It's simple Jack Capuano making the decision. So everything is up to question.
I mean,
you question a lot of the things that he does because he makes a lot of head scratching decisions.
And we don't know if he gets grilled with questions like that after the game's over. I suspect not.
No, if someone were to ask him. Yeah, if someone were to ask him that question, they probably would lose their media credentials right after because we don't we don't impugn any decision that the GM or the coach make or in any way criticize the team or so. If you dare do, you lose your media credentials. So they have to be very careful with their line of questioning.
So the Islanders scored. All right, so those are interesting parts of the game to me. We haven't brought up the fact that they scored 5 goals yet. So maybe we should acknowledge that in their first game out of the All-Star break. So what generally did you like, from all the offense? Obviously, the fact that there was offense, but maybe more specifically, any of the plays stick out in your mind as positive signs from the team?
Yeah, well, I mean, they played pretty well offensively. I mean, they got off to a slow start, but they really jumped on the Wild towards the latter part of the first period and into the second, and really from there, I mean, they just controlled most of the game. Nelson had another, very slick wrist shot that he put past the goalie. He's really just showing off that wrist shot that he has, and you can just tell he's really perfected it. It's a weapon. Doesn't have that lightning quick release, but I mean it's so precise, it's so accurate. Made a nice move, to create space for himself. It was definitely a goal scorer's goal.
Brock Nelson is up to a 17.7 shooting percentage on the season and leads the team with 20 goals on the season.
Yeah,
career high, I believe.
Yeah, I trying to remember how many goals he had last. He may have had 20 last year. I'd have to look that up. But yeah, I mean, he's on his way to putting in, scoring 30 goals this year. I mean, he's on pace for that right now, and right now he's one of their best goal scorers. And he's demonstrating that he's going to be one of their top offensive players going down the stretch.
I'm trying to see here quickly what his career.
I'm pretty sure he had.
Yeah,
I'm pretty
he had 20. Yeah, 20 last year. Yep.
Okay.
Of course. Why do we doubt it?
I didn't know what the exact number was, but I knew he was around there. But yeah, he's on his pace for 30 goals right now. And if you're scoring 30 goals in this league, it means that you're a pretty damn good offensive player.
All right, so I'll give you one last chance here to say anything else about that game. Otherwise, next.
Well, I didn't like. We'll comment on Scott Mayfield, who played in the game over Brian Strait, and we'll get to the fact that he sat in favor of Brian Strait for the following game, which of course took place last night in Washington. But Mayfield, I thought, played okay. He struggled a little bit. He's not a great skater. You can tell. He's obviously a bigger defenseman. I think he's
when you say not great skater, are you referring to speed?
I mean, not like, top speed. I mean, the big defensemen are not going to, have a top speed, amongst some of the great skating forwards in the league. But, for a defenseman, you just have to be able, especially a big defenseman, it's about positioning yourself and using your skating in conjunction with your big frame to your advantage to try and, keep guys to the outside, especially, when they're, carrying the puck. And on that first goal that the Wild scored, now again, it was not a good goal let in by Berube, but Mayfield kind of let
the guy beat him. I don't know what his name was, but I remember seeing the guy beat. He just basically went around Mayfield and got a decent look at the net. Yeah, he
did. And look, ideally, you want to try and keep the player to the outside, keep him at an off angle, and he was sort of at an off angle, so you can't put it all on Mayfield, but he did beat him. And that was it was clear that he beat him because he was just quicker to the punch than Mayfield was, and it's something that he's going to have to continue to improve upon for him to be an NHL defenseman. But I will say that we want to see exactly what this guy is, and he should be playing over Brian Strait every single game because we know that Strait stinks, and we have to find out what Mayfield is. Played okay, struggled. There were a few points in the game where he struggled.
You think Simple Jack benched him against the Capitals because of that play or the general play and wanted to see if Strait would miraculously turn out a better performance?
Probably, it was probably, he did have a couple of, plays in the game where he didn't play well. So I guess I should probably put back Brian Strait in the lineup since
exactly for the record, that's if Jack Capuano stole the mic and said that, I would have thought that was really him.
So you're saying that my impression is spot on? Is that what you're saying? I don't have to try and perfect it anymore because I've been working on it. So I don't have to try and perfect it anymore. You're saying that I'm that I'm now spot on with my imitation. All right, perfect.
Get some Jack sound clips for future episodes.
All right, we'll put them side by side, and
Yeah. All right, good enough. So it was a good win, and that was Tuesday. And then they traveled to nation's capital last night, round 2 on the season. The Islanders lost a tough one against the Capitals at home earlier in the year. And so last night in Washington, high energy. It was a game that felt like a playoff game, and they were right. They had a nice comeback goal in the third period to tie it up, and then of course, who else but number 8 with the dagger and deflating Islander fans' hopes. For the moment in time, they couldn't break through, and just leaves you wondering if that team's gonna just be their roadblock to a deeper run in the playoffs.
Yeah, well, excuse me. As of right now, I mean, the Capitals are running away with that division, and at least they wouldn't have to play them in the first round. I mean, the goal right now for the Islanders, if they're probably not going to win the division, is to get second or third in the division. and then avoid them in the first round. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I mean, the game was a really good game. I mean, it was definitely had the intensity of a playoff game, at least for the most part. I mean, there was a lull in the second period there, but the Islanders jumped on them early. I watched the pregame on NBC Sports, and I think it was, I guess, Anson Carter that said he expected the Capitals to get the early jump, but instead it was the Islanders got the early jump on the Capitals, got on them early, got the first goal. That was a nice goal by a greasy goal by Grabowski. If anybody saw my tweet, I classified it as a good greasy goal by Grabo, as he put home a rebound off of a Hamonic shot that was blocked down in front. The first goal that the Capitals scored was not a good play by Ryan Strome, as he just threw it into no man's land. He was, I don't like those plays in the offensive zone when he just kind of quickly moved the puck without knowing what you're doing with it. Clearly, Strome, maybe he was going for some kind of deflection. I don't know, but quickly careened around the boards. Out come the Capitals on an odd-man rush. Islanders kind of lackadaisical and getting back. Grabowski was covering the dust particles, I guess, dust bunnies, when the goal was put in by, I think, TJ Oshie. Scored the tying goal in the first period. But overall, I mean, the Islanders, played a really good period. Again, it was a lull in the second period, and then the third period, then they took the lead, the Capitals, late in the second. Islanders, as you mentioned, tied it in the third, and then, of course, Ovechkin found a soft spot in the high slot, and, as Ovechkin does, put forth a wicked one-timer past Halak to give the Capitals the win.
Can you tell me what a greasy goal is?
Well, it's another term, another phrase that you'll hear from Butchie quite often. Usually it just describes a goal that's not pretty, that usually is a rebound in front of the net, deflection in front of the net, a rebound in front of the net, a goal that usually results from hard work, from giving us good effort, not necessarily a skill play. So you like to see those goals from everybody, any player, regardless of whether you're a high skill player or a guy like it.
If a player, scores on his own, the rebound that he creates from a shot, that may not be a greasy goal because he created the rebound opportunity. But a greasy goal is more where a guy takes advantage of somebody else's, effort, that the guy's in the right place at the right time and is able to put it in. Is that? Yeah,
well, of course. I mean, of course, it's in the eye of the beholder. But typically it's referred to, a greasy goal is just referred to that type of goal where you set yourself up in front of the net and you're rewarded for if a defensive player is going to try and displace you from the front of the net by getting their stick into you and getting their body into you, typically if a player scores in front of the net, you'll hear the term or phrase greasy goal.
Oh, I see. It's if he's gotcha. So it's specifically in front of the net. Okay. So let's talk about this Ovechkin goal. So I read that Tavares was putting it all on him. When you saw the replay, you could see Tavares, or those who are more skilled than I watching it live, noticed that Tavares was probably the closest Islander to Ovechkin. Now, when you say high slot, it's not like Ovechkin was anywhere near the blue line. So what does high mean exactly?
The slot is just considered the area, directly in front of the goal. I mean, you have your circles, you have the hash marks. So typically the slot is that, that kind of that general area in between, in front of the crease and kind of going back to like the top of the circles. Usually that area is classified as the slot. And when you're, towards the, closer towards the top of the circles, that particular area is classified as the high slot. And as you mentioned, and I did see this as well, that Tavares took the blame for that goal because normally in your typical defensive scheme, when the opposing team is on the cycle, you have your wings covering the point men, and your defensemen are down low, and your center is covering the middle of the ice. So that's what Tavares, at least that's what I believe he was alluding to when he took the blame for that goal. But to answer your question, that slot is the high slot is that area.
So he was supposed to hang out over there. He's like, so when the Capitals are in the Islander zone and Tavares and Ovechkin are both out there, is Tavares supposed to be shoulder to shoulder with Ovechkin?
No. No, it depends. It depends. I mean, you can. I guess the best analogy that I can give is half court in basketball. If you watch a basketball game and you see the defensive players constantly rotating. If you're playing,
Right.
if you have a pick and roll or something, and
Yeah.
you have to switch, and you're rotating around to. When the ball is being passed around. So in hockey, it's somewhat similar. When the other team is moving the puck on the cycle, again, your defensemen are down low. They're going to be guarding the front of the net. They're going to be guarding the end line. Normally your two wingers are going to be out towards the blue line, defending against the two defensemen for the opposing team. And normally your center is going to be, in the middle of the ice or, chasing the puck carrier. Some teams do it differently. Some will play a strict zone. Others will have the center. In this case, Tavares was chasing the puck carrier. The puck was behind the net. That's where Tavares was. And he just didn't recover quickly enough once the puck was dug loose by the Capitals. Backstrom got the puck along the far side wall. And he had a clear passing lane to Ovechkin, who set himself up in that soft spot in the Islander defense, was just able to put a one-timer past the lock. But
and you said some teams play zone. I mean, so what's the opposite of that? Do they call it man-to-man? Is there another phrase for it?
No, I mean, and you'll see teams, do different things throughout the course of a game. And, when the other team gets it in a cycle, normally, hockey, obviously, it's constantly moving.
Yes.
And a lot, you'll obviously see the puck going back. An obvious statement, I know. The puck, moving back and forth.
For those that are just listening, the hand gestures are covering the lips face so much as he's to describe how hockey is constantly moving games. So there is a benefit to sometimes tuning into the video, and that was
I guess it's the best way for me to illustrate my point.
That was the epitome of that. Yes. Okay.
I guess it's the best way for me to illustrate my point. But when normally when the other team is when the offensive team is cycling, defensive team is trying to position themselves so they can best defend against and prohibit any prime scoring chances. You want to ideally keep your team, keep the opposing team to the perimeter. Any shots to the perimeter, not let them get the puck into those high scoring, to those prime scoring areas like the slot.
How do you let Ovechkin he was just standing there all by himself right in front of Halak? Like, how do you, is it just a breakdown?
It was a breakdown, it was absolutely a breakdown.
Look, obviously they're not communicating verbally much on the ice. I can't imagine it. It's probably hard to do that. Because the puck is moving so quick. I mean, maybe they do. I don't know. But, when you're trying to break up a play, like you said, in the far side behind the net, is somebody going to yell, get Alex? Like, before that, by the time you yell that, it's probably too late anyway. And so they just had a breakdown. I mean,
they did. No, they had a breakdown. That's exactly what it was. And you can assign blame to Tavares. It depends on how you interpret the play. You can assign blame to Tavares for not recovering quickly enough and getting to that area. But I'll throw something else out there. Mikhail Grabowski was close to Nicholas Backstrom. I think he was like at the top of the right circle there. And what I think he should have did there, instead of guarding against the passing lane back to the right point, he should have been guarding again, trying to get into the passing lane, to that area where Ovechkin was standing in the high slot. And he was instead he was guarding against he was trying to intercept the passing lane back to the point. And there was a
where is the point?
Lane.
Where's the point?
Should I point? You want me to point to the point?
Sure.
The point's that way. For those that are watching, the point is that way. See? That way.
That way.
So Mikhail Grabowski is here.
Is it along the board? Is the point along the board?
You're asking me that's a serious question. Oh, I thought you were just. Okay. I'm sorry. I thought you were just again alluding to the fact that I was using my hands.
No, not at all.
To illustrate my point. Okay.
No, not this time.
I mean, the point is just generally referred to as the area along the blue line where the two defensemen are usually set up. So you have your right point, your left point, and because the defenseman can act as point men.
Thank you for helping us understand where the high slot is and the points. Okay.
My pleasure.
So
again, you can either blame Tavares or you can blame Grabowski there for not getting a stick in the passing lane. and not allowing one of the best playmakers in the league to have a clear lane to the top goal scorer in the league.
So is this like a moral victory for the Islanders? Are there no moral victories?
I could. You don't want to use that phrasing to describe a team that is supposed to have aspirations of making a deep run in the playoffs. So to say that this was a moral victory for a game in February, the Capitals are arguably the best team in the NHL. But if the Islanders think that they can compete for a Stanley Cup this year, I mean, you're going to have to win some of these games. So it was a lost opportunity. It was a game that. I thought they got the better of the play for the majority. The third period, I thought the Islanders definitely had the better of the play. But they weren't able to get the job done. They were able to tie the game. Josh Bailey, who everybody knows if you heard the last podcast, I was not too complimentary to, and I'm an advocate for him.
I suspect you inspired him, and he's like, screw that lip, and farted and then scored a goal.
Well, if that gave him a boost, both. I
think we know what you mean by the boost. Yes.
Okay. So hopefully it did, and hopefully it'll be allow him to gain a little momentum and gain a little confidence going forward.
I don't know about the team. It was probably a very frustrating game for the team because they
I'm sure
played
it was.
well and they lost and. Well, for better or worse, they immediately had to leave and go to Detroit, and I understand they practiced there today and have an afternoon game against Detroit tomorrow. The Islanders lost to Detroit in their last meeting a couple weeks ago, and then on Sunday they host the Edmonton Oilers. So 2 more games coming right up. Johnny Boychuk, I believe, is expected to return tomorrow. He was a heavy topic of discussion on our first show because we were talking about the loss of Mr. Boychuk, 4 to 6 weeks, and so it's been about that time frame actually. So they kind of were spot on with the lower. Well, actually, I don't even remember. Was it a shoulder injury? Right,
shoulder,
he banged his shoulder. Well, correct. They didn't tell us that, but upper body injury. And so he's apparently coming back. So we take that. So you think Straight will take a seat now, both Straight and Mayfield?
I think it's safe to assume that Brian Straight will come out of the lineup. Yeah.
And so both he and you think do they send Mayfield down? Like, because Boychuk's on IR, so they have to make a spot on the roster for him, correct?
Yeah. So yes, that's correct. So my guess would be that Mayfield will be sent back to the minors. That's correct.
Look at me. I don't even have to ask you anymore. This is getting exciting. All right.
Hey, we're learning together.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Okay. So look, anything specific you want besides Boychuk coming back?
We want to educate as well. We want to educate as well as entertain.
Well, I'm getting educated on basic hockey terms, so there. So is there anything specific? Boychuk's coming back, so you're going to want to look to see how he is. You probably shake off some rust. Anything else in particular we're looking out for now? Following these first 2 games that we saw in the All-Star after the All-Star break, so now we got 2 more coming up.
Yeah, well, actually, so I just want to throw out there for the advanced stat crowd, and we've kind of touched on advanced stats a little bit, but I'll just throw this out there. So for the Minnesota game, the Islanders 5-on-5 adjusted Corsi, which again, we'll just define. So Corsi is is the total amount of shots that you get towards the net, whether they're on net, blocked, or that go wide. So just attempted shots. So the Islanders adjusted Corsi in the Minnesota game was 65 attempts to 39 for the Wild. And in the Washington Capital game, it was 58 for the Islanders and 34 for the Capitals. So for the advanced stat crowd that love to evaluate a game based off the advanced stats, particularly Corsi, there you go.
So that's just raw. It's raw numbers. We're not looking at shot quality or anything like that, right? It's just
correct. Yes. So just anything that is. Of course,
I'm just trying to make your point seem less valuable. Obviously, more so than getting clarification.
Well, there are those that live and die by the Corsi stat, and truly believe that it's a great indicator of how much a team is possessing the puck, and that the more shot attempts that you get, that you're going to get better scoring opportunities with those attempts as well.
Okay.
So I just wanted to get that out there. So good for the Islanders winning the Corsi battle, the first two games back from the All-Star break. But moving on,
by over 20.
Yes, by wide margins, yeah.
Yeah, by over
Absolutely.
20, 25, and by over 25 in each game. That's a lot. Okay, well, it is Super Bowl Sunday, and so I've kind of had a kind of W gas feeling about it this week.
I'm so glad to hear you say that.
I've you see a lot of the just looking at the TV, whether I'm out to dinner or flipping through the channels at home, and there's the coverage on the NFL Network, on all the the main net, the basic cable networks, the local affiliates who are all out there, and I mean, it's media week. I barely paid attention. Is it a product of us being more into fantasy sports and the our respective teams not in it? None of our team's division division rivals are in it. Is it a combination of those things? Probably. But still,
I think so.
It's projected to be the most watched TV event ever.
Which is now like the norm. It's like every year, and they make it seem like it's like huge news. Like, oh my God, really? Well, when that's the case now, it seems like every year. That it's going to break last year's record. And
I guess I just feel a little guilty, maybe not insulting him, but just paying tribute to Peyton Manning, incredible career. Probably his last game, maybe not, but it'd be nice to see him go out on top, a class act, and
yeah, he is. But you know what though? That's not. And you mentioned like you kind of had this W gas approach, as have I, and I'm also just a little. It's just been nonstop Peyton Manning stories. You read papers and you listen to segments.
I haven't known that because I haven't really paid attention, but I guess it makes sense. So
the Peyton Manning angle has. And it's been explored from every single excruciating, different angle and variation of a legacy. Will it tarnish it if he loses? Well, this cement his legacy if he wins. And let's explore. Well, if he does win, he'll go down as the greatest of all time. But if he loses, he's just the greatest regular season quarterback of all. And I'm getting to the point where I can't take it anymore. And honestly, I really don't even care who wins on Sunday. I don't care. And you know what? If I didn't see the game, I wouldn't lose sleep. I'll just say that much.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but to me, this what the NFL has created here with this game, and when you think about what it's supposed to be in its purest form, it's supposed to be the championship game between the AFC and the NFC. And it was interesting just listening to a few interviews this week, and I read a few things this week, and Pete Rozelle, the former NFL commissioner that joined the AFL and the NFL together back in the 60s. And it was talked about how he wanted this to be like a grandiose event, to cap off the season. He didn't want it just to be another football game. Okay, championship game. Let's get it over with, done, moving on to the next season. He wanted it to have that, type of feel, that grandiose feel, and, to basically put on a show for everybody, with everything. And it's gotten to the point where this event, for me, it's completely engulfed the game where it's not even enjoyable. And, there's so many different distractions, and, you have the 2-week pregame show and the, 5-hour halftime show, and, and the commercial break after almost every play. And I've gotten to the point where, I don't enjoy watching the game anymore. And if my team's on it, I could almost care less. I don't know what you feel. It makes you feel different.
I think if you are able to avoid all the buildup during the 2 weeks leading up to the game, and you just not pay attention to it, and then the day or two before the game you start getting excited about it, then maybe you wouldn't be so jaded at that point, right? And maybe you can't help it because you listen to the sports radio and you read the sports sections of the papers and whatever, but maybe it's because of the excess coverage that it's too much to this point, and it's like you just want the game to be played, so you don't have to deal with it anymore.
Right, but even when the game is played, you're still dealing with all the excess and the commercials and the halftime show and everything.
Compartmentalized into one night with a game on, and you're enjoying a beer or six and unhealthy food with friends. If I could see that being a fun event, but the fact that there's this over coverage of it leading up to it kind of makes you not get psyched. But you think about it from the outside, and you say, "Oh, the Super Bowl's tomorrow," without really seeing all that coverage. Maybe you wouldn't be so WGAS. Well, maybe you'll have to wait till next year. We'll put you to the test on that and force you to avoid looking at all the coverage. Because I know that'll work.
Right, and it's that I sought out like everything on ESPN. I never turn on ESPN or I mean I put on NFL Network every night, but I never turn on ESPN because I'll have to blow my brains out if I have to hear any of the nonsense that comes from there. But and I guess I'm also kind of disenchanted with the NFL in general and just their overall greed and how they're just slicing off every last layer of the Super Bowl to the highest bidder and trying to maximize profits. But
they're a tax exempt organization.
Of course, silly me. How I forgotten? That's right. They're a charitable organization,
exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Except when it comes to their old players that have to fight for every last dime to take care of their myriad medical issues and CTE, which is of course a hot button topic now.
Yeah. All right. Well,
there you go. That's my 2 cents.
Okay. So,
moving on. Next.
Well, yep. So, next is the final moment of our podcast for
All
tonight,
right.
And that is the hipster moment of the week.
Hipster moment of the week. Let's do it.
So, the last 2 days,
wait.
Hipster moment of zenith. Thank you. How dare I butcher my own little segment? Well, I did.
because I have a feeling this will be my true moment of zenith for the week.
So I was in the DC metro area the last 2 days. I just got back tonight, and it was a work trip. Last night went out to dinner with my boss was there. He's based in he doesn't work in the same office as me, so we don't see each other that often. So, we went out to dinner with a couple of people from the local office and, had a nice meal, had a few drinks, ate a lot of food, pretty full, ended up catching, some of the game at a bar after. There was nobody else at the bar watching except for the two of us, I don't think, which was kind of funny. I was and we're I was in the, in Tyson's Corner was the actual town that I was in, but that's that's DC metro area.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
nobody else watching.
Corner, it's an office city, and I think a lot of people who travel who are not fans of the local teams there at the hotel bar. Anyway,
I was going to say clearly the city was abuzz for Islanders Capitals.
Right. So we and it wasn't on any of the TVs at the restaurant we were at either, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, so had a big meal, had a few drinks, had another drink at the bar. Got up early and had a big breakfast at the hotel. I had an omelet and biscuits with gravy because it was like it was a buffet, and felt not hungover but a little dehydrated. Wanted to just bulk up on the food. Had coffee. Anyway, why am I telling you all this? Because then we drive to the office, which is 5 minutes away, and I could start feeling, all right, I have to go to the bathroom. I'm feeling it. It's coming.
Uh-oh.
Uh-ohs, and that's okay because normally
you had to take a leak, right? That's what you mean. You had to take a leak.
Normally, after I have the morning coffee, is when my intestinal nature comes calling. Okay, I'll put it that way. And so I literally get my laptop bag onto my desk, and I kind of want to just set it up and turn it on, and it shows you that you're online, like in the company. And so all right, I want to be signed on, and people see that I'm like on my computer or whatever. So I get that set up, but as I'm still setting it up, I'm like in the office for like 30 seconds, and it's really like it's there. It's like, all right, you got to go. You just got to, no more stalling here. So I turn and I walk to the bathroom, and there's a slight pause because the toilet seat covers, there's 3 stalls, and the toilet seat covers are not in the stalls themselves, but there's one dispenser like by the sinks. Okay, so so I grab the toilet seat cover, and instinctively, I don't know why, I decide to walk, or I'm about to enter the middle stall. Okay, like the one of the stalls on the side was like the handicap stalls, the big one, and then I chose like I didn't want to go in that one. I just went in the middle one. Okay. And so as I'm about to as I'm just opening the door to the middle stall, holding the piece of paper, who walks into the bathroom but my boss?
Whoops.
and he's holding a newspaper.
Clearly preparing.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, well, there's a couple of awkward components to this. First is I'm choosing the middle stall, which means that what am I going to change the stall I'm choosing so that so that we could be separated? I'm like, I mean, look, this is human nature. This is what we do as human beings, right? Every day. So I'm just gonna go into the middle stall, and we'll have to be next to each other. And he has his newspaper, so obviously he's bringing it in there too. And remember, I went in there and I really had to go. So and when you really have to go, it's it's hard to control the release as much, if you will, and the sound. So sure enough, he goes into the stall next to me. There's nobody else in this it's a small bathroom. It's 3 stalls and 2 urinals. It's not like and so I sit down, and I could just tell it's not one of those like solid ones where it'll like just like kind of blissfully and quietly go into the toilet. It was kind of more like mud, and where the sound, like when you hear somebody go to the bathroom and there's sound, you could pretty much tell whether it's like if it's just gas, if it's actual poop itself, or if it's like hitting the water. Well, this was like mud the way it was coming out. It wasn't diarrhea. It was more like mud, and it kept coming, and it was so loud too. I couldn't control the sound. There was no restraint. Plus, what I wanted to try to do was do a courtesy flush as it was coming out, so he couldn't hear the noise. This didn't have a handle. It was a sensor based, and some of the sensor ones have like a little rubber piece on it that you can push that will flush the toilet. There was no rubber piece on this, so I couldn't even flush the toilet while it's to mask the sound, or do a courtesy flush after it came out to mask the smell. And so it kept coming, and like I couldn't believe how much I could believe it, because we had a big dinner and then this huge breakfast, and it got to the point where I'm like, screw this, I don't care. And I kind of chuckled out loud and said, sorry, Mark.
I hope he was enjoying it as much as you were at that point.
No, he doesn't care. He's a good guy. Like, he's not, he's the opposite of being socially awkward. He's just like, oh no, it's all good. Fire away. It was just kind of a funny, intimate moment to share with your boss.
So this shared experience endeared yourself to your boss, is what you're saying.
I'm sure it did.
and kind of solidified you've been working at this job now a few months, right? So now this kind of solidified the relationship that you have with your boss.
If it were only solid, maybe it wouldn't have been solidified.
Well, the irony, of course, is the lack of solid solidified the relationship.
So the hipster moment of Zenith was a longer one, but it was worth I think the every detail to share it. And if you made it this far, well.
Well, I enjoyed the story, and I'm sure anybody listening enjoyed that as well. I have reached my zenith. I legitimately have reached my zenith for the week. It's all downhill now from here. So actually, now you kind of ruined my week because nothing else can top that.
You'll find you'll
Even
find some
8-0
awkward
win by the Islanders on tomorrow would not surpass this.
Until next time, that's Hip and the Lip. I'm the Hip, and this is the Lip.
The Lip says, all right, next.
All right, enjoy the Super Bowl. We'll circle back early next week to recap the weekend's games. We'll talk Super Bowl. I'm sure we'll come up with our own, and we'll find another hipster moment of Zenith to throw in the mix, and maybe we'll have a new segment. We'll see.
We'll see. All right. Stay tuned.
All right.
Enjoy your weekend, everybody. See you on Monday. Enjoy the game.
All right.
Next.
Yes.
All right.